Culture has been defined in many ways. This video will focus on the 6 dimensions of culture according to Gert Hofstede. Psychologist Dr. Gert Hofstede published 6 dimensions of culture at the end of 1970s. He studied people who worked for IBM in more than 50 countries. Initially, he identified 4 dimensions that could distinguish one culture from another. Later, he added 5th and 6th dimensions, and these are: first, the power distance index.
Power index distance, a subjectively perceived willingness to accept an equal distribution of power and organization. There's often a high power gap between the various hierarchical levels and very conservative structures. Accordingly, management makes decisions and the result is passed on down it. It's also necessary to maintain all communication channels and times also the specified power and structures to start up companies or companies with modern management methods. There's often a culture or flat hierarchy and open communications between staff and management. The power distance is theoretical actions and reason for potential applicant from generation.
Uncertainty Avoidance Index. UAI is a dimension that describes how well people can cope up with anxiety. In societies that score highly for uncertainty avoidance, people attempt to make life as predictable and controllable as possible. This deals with a society's tolerance for uncertainty and ambiguity. It ultimately refers to man's search for truth. For example, in Germany, there is a reasonable high uncertainty avoidance for 65%, compared to the countries as Singapore, which is 8%, and the neighboring countries like Denmark with 23%.
Versus femininity. It represents stereotypical values and behavioral norms that are typically male or female. However, you have to note that it is not about the actual frequency distribution of sexes, but about typical male behaviors such as dominations and competition. However, this behavior is not only found in men, it is also found in women. Femininity displays through values such as caring, cooperation, and modesty from importance, which can be traits found in men as well.
Collectivism versus individualism. Collectivism stresses the importance of the community, while individualism is focused on the rights and concerns of each person, wherein unity and selflessness or altruism are valued traits in collectivist cultures, whereas individualistic cultures promotes independence and personal identity. For example, in collectivist societies, it's likely to take care of elderly parents if they fall ill and will change their own plans in the event of a family emergency. Whereas in individualistic society, some people tend to support themselves financially and do not depend on anyone else for their needs.
Long-term versus short-term orientation is one of 5 cultural dimensions. Countries with a long-term orientation focuses on the future. It is tend to be pragmatic, modest, perseverance, adaptability, and more thrifty, while cultures demonstrating a short-term orientation are more concerned with short gratification. You value tradition, current social hierarchy, and fulfilling obligation. It also focuses on present or past.
Indulgence versus restraint. This dimension is still relatively new and describes the potential achievements of happiness through the perception of self-control for oneself and one's life, in contrast to an external determined way of living one's life transferred to its companies. You can call yourself the freedom to develop in the free economy as it suits you depending on the ability to discipline yourself, while as a civil servant at the post office, for example, you have to adhere to a really rigorous career path. You can only change it slightly.